So for the folks that are tuning in on YouTube from home, my name is Kevin. I am with a company called the Weird Homes Tour, and we do home tours of unique and creative and interesting homes, and they're equally unique, creative, and interesting homeowners. We're doing these short sneak peeks into their homes every Saturday at 12 noon and at 4 p.m. And today we are being joined by one of America's most famous, most interesting magicians, hypnotists, woodworker. I don't know, I'm making up stuff at this point, but it's quite interesting. And so we'd love to talk with Brad Henderson. How you doing, Brad?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good.
Well, welcome to my house. My name is Brad Henderson. I am a magician. I've been performing magic since I was about 4 years old, but I didn't get serious about it until I was 10. And in that time, I've surrounded myself with things that are strange, weird, and unusual that inspire my work and fuel my creativity. Since this is a magician's house of wonder, I'd like to start by sharing with you my favorite optical illusion. My favorite optical illusion. Watch the disc, watch the disc, watch the disc. Do not look away. Keep your eyes right on the middle of the disc. In a moment, you'll notice three things beginning to happen. The first thing you'll notice is that the white and black edges, which were once solid, start to appear fuzzy. That's normal. Keep your eyes on the disc. The second thing you'll notice is the white part may take on a colored hue. It may look a little red or yellow. That's a reflection of the antique posters from the wall. It has nothing to do with the illusion. Keep your eyes on the disc. What we're really going for is a tunnel vision effect. It should look like we're moving in or out of a tunnel. Now in a moment, not now, in a moment, I'll have you look at my face, my head, not now, in a moment. And when you do, it will appear as if my face, my head is shrinking, growing smaller and smaller and smaller. Watch the disc, watch the disc, watch the disc. Stare at my face. And that's my favorite illusion. Are you still there with me, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
So just why don't you show us around? I'll pop in with some questions. And for those who are watching us on YouTube, feel free to type in your questions and I'll get to them as we go.
Great, come with me. This is the entryway to my house. This is what I call the display room, and it is filled with magical apparatus, all of which I've used in various productions and shows throughout my career. There are three major influences on my life, one of which we'll talk about in a bit, but it leads to this little piece. It's an unusual piece. I put it here because I love everyone seeing it. It's a wonderful piece of kinetic art that simulates the motion of a bird in flight. I'm just fascinated by these pieces of mechanical art that come to life. Off to my right, you'll see a display cabinet that's filled with handmade Japanese puzzle boxes. Now, when most people think of Japanese puzzle boxes, they think of just the ones that have the sides that slide and have to figure it out. These I love because they're almost story-driven. This is one of my favorite. It's a box. It does open, but at the moment it's locked. So we have to figure out, how do we open the box? Well, I like to ask myself, what is this thing? Well, it's a tooth and it's a brush. So what do you do with the tooth and a brush? You brush the tooth with the brush. And if you do a thorough job, the box will open.
Yay!
Each one of these has a different story that it tells. And some of these are, not only are the mechanisms genius, but the woodwork and craftsmanship that goes into them. I am not a woodworker. I couldn't make any stuff if I tried. Let's walk into the living room. You know, as I said, there are three things that really influenced me when I was growing up. The first, of course, is magic. The second is Disney. I love Disney. You'll see animation art items from the theme parks all throughout the house. But another big influence on me was the Addams family. When I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be Gomez Addams. Unfortunately, I was born with the body of Uncle Fester. That hasn't stopped me from surrounding myself with things that are strange, weird, unusual, possessed, haunted. This is my living cabinet of curiosities. Let's talk a little bit about this shelf here. The shelf itself is interesting. It's made out of what's known as a Tonga card. Now, the Tonga card is a card that itinerant magicians and witches in northern India would use to travel around from town to town, casting spells, removing curses, and reading fortunes. I keep some of my favorite pieces on this shelf. Here's one of my favorites. This is a Masonic skull. It came from a Masonic temple in Paris. You would encounter it during one of your rituals. Imagine seeing just a bit of light. If you read the inscription, there are a couple of them, one of which says, "I am now what you will be. You are now what I once was." It is what we call a memento mori, a reminder that life is temporary. There are other things written on the skull, but I'm not allowed to tell you what they say. If we come up, we'll see a couple of my other favorite skulls. This is an Asmat ancestor skull. This belonged to a beloved member of the tribe, and they decorated it, maybe put some of his hair on it, and they kept this around as a way of honoring his spirit inside their community. Next to him is an ornate carved Tibetan skull. The markings on this are absolutely incredible, and in real life, I assure you, it's utterly breathtaking. You'll see an exploded skull up here to the right. This is the newest addition to my collection. This was created by a man named Sickhart. The pieces actually move, and you can explore the anatomy and the beauty of the human skull. And of course, no collection is complete without a skeleton in a coffin. You can't say you have a genuine collection of oddities unless you've got a skeleton in a closet. Now, if you look up, you'll see that my house is filled with lots of artwork. One of my favorite things are some of the posters. These are antique stone lithographs. The oldest one in my collection dates back to 1894. The way these are made are impressive. First of all, they were never meant to be kept. That's why they're so rare. They'd be plastered on the side of the barn. Next season, somebody else's artwork would be plastered on top of it. They're advertising pieces. But for every sheet of paper, there was a limestone slab of this size, one for every color that you see in the poster. So there was a slab that had all the red bits and a slab that had all the tan bits. And they would put the ink on, they'd lay the paper down, they would take them off, and you end up producing these amazingly detailed and beautiful works of art. Now, as I said, one of my favorite things was Disney. You'll see that I've got theme park items throughout the house. From Disney, I also got my love of automaton, mechanical devices that come to life. This is made by a modern automaton master, a man named Thomas Kuntz. This is the tiki drinking automaton. It, of course, is influenced by the tiki room at Disney. The little fellow pours him a drink, and he drinks incessantly, proving that Thomas was well aware of what was going to happen when we all ended up in quarantine together. As we walk down the hallway, you'll get to see some more of the magic posters. And on the right, you'll see some of the original Disney animation art, some original line drawings, some concept art, and some of the cells with which they actually made the movies. So let's go down the hall and let's go into my office, or what I call the Wonder Room. Carter the Great toured the world 8 times, some of the most beautiful magic posters ever made. Again, another classic Alexander image. I mean, look at that. Oh, that's so beautiful. Come on in, come on in, come on in. The magician is in. I made this when I was in 6th grade in shot glass. That's why you said I was a woodworker. Yeah, that's funny. Come on in. This is my office. I sometimes call this the Wonder Room because I filled it with things that I just think are beautiful and inspire my imagination. So you're going to see some contemporary art. You're going to see automata. You're going to see unusual pieces of magic from Japan and Holland that are extraordinarily rare. I'll just show you a couple of fun things while we're here. This is an impossible object. It was made by a magician called Harry Ng. Inside this bottle, now this bottle is a solid bottle. It's never been cut. It's never been glued. The bottle has not been manipulated in any way, shape, or form. But there is a very real pair of scissors. It's actually signed by Harry Ng. I see that. It has
a tennis ball skewered, and this was Harry's kind of sculptural signature. These knots, all of his bottles have one of these knots in them. And somehow all of this he managed to put inside this bottle. It said that if you went to have dinner with Harry, right, he would save the wine bottle from the dinner, and he would take various things that you encountered throughout the night, and he would send you the wine bottle from your dinner filled with all of this stuff as a permanent, impossible memory of your experience together. And I love this little fellow. This was made by Lynn Insull. It's a Toby mug. Now, you may have seen these. People collect these all over. They're little mugs that are meant to be drunk out of, but this one's a little special. Some people said he's haunted. Are you haunted? I'm not haunted. No, he's not haunted, but he does have things in his past that he regrets. Well, who doesn't? Yeah, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear him screaming. It was very tough out on the ships and the seas over Dover. So this is my office room. Before we go down the hall, has anybody offered any questions for us there, Kevin?
Yeah, Brad, we have a couple people that are just amazed by all your stuff. How do you come across these items? Do you trade with other magicians?
Yeah, well, so I've been collecting since I was a kid. Now, my first collection were actually Disney records, and then I collect interactive board games. So I've always been a collector at heart. Auctions, magic stores, everywhere I travel, I always try to stop and find, the strange, the weird, the unusual. But I also have a very good friend named Richard Garriott. He's been to outer space. He's one of the video game pioneers. And he had a collection of collections. And it's still one of the world's greatest collection of collections. He used to live here in Austin, and he moved to New York. And, when your friends move, sometimes you're lucky and they give you a couch. Well, my friend gave me, for example, these two automaton right here. In fact, we'll walk down the hall. I'll show you one of the ones that he gave to me, which is absolutely one of my favorites. So follow me. I'll point out this poster at the end of the hall as well. This is Miss Cheyenne. She's the queen of the house. This poster here, P.T. Selbit's The Mighty Cheese. P.T. Selbit was the man who invented the illusion sawing through a woman. But my favorite trick that he did was the mighty cheese. There's a wheel of cheese about 2 feet wide, cheese wheel depth. There's nothing special about it. And he would get the 5 strongest men in the audience and challenge them to take the cheese and set it on the floor. And they can't do this because the cheese fights back. A friend of mine, one of the greatest illusion builders in the world, actually recreated this illusion, and I've held the cheese in my hands, and I will tell you, it kicked my ass, threw me on the floor. It was like being hit by a horse. Come with me. Let me show you one of the automaton I was speaking of. This is Poisoned Milk by Matt Smith. I love this. Again, one of the things I love about these pieces is when they tell a story. So we've got this quirky little cat. You can see he's very excited. And as I crank, he's going to start lapping up some of the milk. Of course, this cat can't read, so he doesn't know that this milk is poison. But eventually, he finds out. I think that's hilarious. Come with me into the library. This is the library. This is probably the most important room in any magician's home. This is where most of my greatest ideas come from. I have almost 4,000 books, some dating back to the 1500s. The entire history of magic is represented. In fact, there are many magical things in this room. Over here, if I turn on this little light, a light bulb appears, except it's not a light bulb, it's actually a 3-dimensional hologram. This table was seized in an FBI raid in Gardena, California. Gamblers use it to secret cards inside the table, and there's a little sweet spot. You hit it, you can actually switch the cards without anyone seeing them. There are a couple of great little automaton in here. I'll show you this one. This one I call a seasonal automaton because it only works when the weather is right. But when she does, it's pretty amazing. She's called the Archer. She's got a bit of a strong grip, so I'm going to make sure she gets the arrow in her hand.
She takes it out of her quiver, loads the bow, and fires. And if that's not one of the coolest things I've ever seen, I don't know what is. So this is my library. Again, do we have any questions? Anybody want to know a little bit more about any particular piece or thing? Now would be the time.
Well, Brad, I guess, some people are wanting to know kind of what drew you into magic, what kind of brought you into the world.
To me, I've been interested in magic ever since I was very, very young. I could, even before I knew what magic was, I could turn on the TV, and if it were a magician or a variety performer, I was instantly attracted to it. But I was also attracted to things like the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, Easter Island, witchcraft, Ouija boards. And I realized all of these things were on that border, at least to me at that time, between was it real? Is it not real? Could it be real? So that liminal space has always been an area that I found fascinating. But of all those things, an 8-year-old could do was to go and get a book on magic tricks and learn how to do them. I couldn't very well take an excursion to Easter Island. So my interest in the things that blurred the line between reality, the natural, the supernatural, the impossible, that I think was what appealed to me originally. And of those things, magic was the thing that I could kind of get my hands on and start working with even at a very young age.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think that this was just a perfect sneak peek into your home, but we're also working together on something that was much more. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So on Tuesday, Weird Homes and Atlas Obscura, which is an amazing website, have partnered to bring a very in-depth experience. So we're going to go through the house. We're going to spend a little bit more time, show a few more things, and I'm actually going to do some of the magic that I'm famous for in the context, in the spaces that actually inspired that magic to be developed. So it's about an hour. You'll get to spend in my home with me, and I believe Kevin will be there as well. And at the end, we'll have a little bit more time where I'll be able to sit down and we can share some more time together. But it's Atlas Obscura. No, it's on your website. It's on their website too. Tickets, I think, are $10. It is Tuesday night at 7:00 Central, 8 Eastern. I hope everybody signs up and comes back and visits me here at the House of Wonder.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brad. And we can't wait to be with you on Tuesday. It'll be exciting.
Me too. Well, signing off here. Take care. I'm going now to disappear.